All right. Good morning, friends. How are you? It's Tuesday. Going to be a great day, and looking forward to everything that's going on. Got a little video shoot this afternoon. Getting ready for kind of selling some parenting courses and things like that. So, kind of excited about what's going to happen this afternoon. Look forward to spending time doing that. Today we're back in Philippians. It's kind of a different section in Philippians. We're in Philippians chapter 2, and really talking about the value of trusted friends. It's a section where Paul is writing, as he's writing the whole letter to Timothy. This section, to Philippians, he's writing this section saying, hey, I'm trying to send this guy to you. I appreciate you sending me this guy and all of that. So as we work through this, it's just kind of a really good, loving reminder of the value of friendships and the value that we bring to each other and the qualities that people see in us that maybe we don't see in ourselves. So I think it's going to be a fun little study and look at what's taking place. And so this is where we are. Sorry, I was looking at, my thing was not working correctly. So it's kind of a love deal, just wanting people to see what's going on in that whole section. And so he begins, and let's just read it. He says, "I hope in the Lord to send Timothy to you soon, that I also may be cheered when I receive news about you. I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. For everyone looks out for their own interests, not those of Jesus Christ. But you know that Timothy has proved himself, because as a son with his father, he has served me in the work of the gospel. I hope, therefore, to send him as soon as I see how things go with me, and I am confident in the Lord that I myself will come soon." Now, we're going to look at a couple of sections, but that's the one section I kind of wanted us to look at right now. So let's talk a little bit about this. So Paul is in prison. He's under house arrest, been there for 2 years. And in the process of all of this, the church in Philippi realized Paul was in prison, sent Epaphroditus, which we're going to look at in a minute, to him to give him some money and resources to kind of manage the house imprisonment that he was in, and then just to be a servant to him, just to check on his needs. And so as Paul writes this letter back with the intent of sending Epaphroditus back with him and take this letter, he's been writing some instruction and kind of telling him what's going on, very informative, all about joy and all of that. And so now he's beginning to say about the relationship with them. And so he says, I'm hoping to send Timothy to you. Paul loved the Philippian church. It was kind of one of his favorite churches because of just their lifestyle and the way that they were going on about life and love. And they were really a mature church. And so Paul's concerned about them. And in the process of this, he says, I'm hoping in the Lord. I love the fact that he says, I'm hoping in the Lord. Not, hey, I'm going to do this, but if the Lord wills. That's kind of the concept. That mindset that we serve a sovereign God is so crucial. But he says, I hope in the Lord Jesus to send Timothy to you soon. Now, let me talk just a little bit about Timothy. Timothy was both a Greek and a Jew. He fit into both worlds, which is important in Paul's ministry, for he was very similar to Paul. Paul was a Roman citizen, although a full, complete Jew. And so Timothy had a Greek father, but he had a Jewish mother and a Jewish grandmother, and he was circumcised, which made him kind of an official Jewish person. And he was brought up in the faith by both his mom and his grandmother. So he came from a good, solid, believing home, Christian home, we would call it. And so they taught him the scriptures from old. And so when Paul meets Timothy, he finds great value in Timothy. So Timothy's already a Christian, and then Paul wants to bring him along and travel with him. So he's like a mentor. He's been mentored by Paul, and he's also a pastor. He's pastor of the church at Ephesus and several other places. And so let's just look at the qualities that Paul says about him. He says, I want to send him to you soon, so that I also may be cheered and receive news about you. He's going, I think I'm going to send Timothy, if the Lord lets me. And he can kind of encourage you, and then he can bring back word of what's going on with you so that we can stay in this contact, right? No social media. So this was their form of social media. And so listen to how he describes him. He says, I have no one else like him. There's this kindred spirit. Don't you love when you have a friend and you go, I got nobody else like them. They're just, we get it, we fit. You know, we can complete each other's sentences, so to speak. That whole cheesy kind of thing. He says, man, there's no one else like him. The uniqueness of each of us sometimes gets missed. I love to think about my friends and just celebrate the quirks and uniqueness and all of those things with them. And so Paul is similar to that. And he's going, hey, I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. So here we find that Timothy is this sympathetic guy. He's a shepherd. He's a true pastor. He comes in not to talk about himself and all of that, but he says he shows genuine concern for your welfare. I love friends who seek to show genuine concern for my welfare, and I love to be the friend that shows genuine concern for their welfare. When you have a friendship like this, and there's not pride, there's humility that's kind of in that relationship, it's powerful. And so this is what we're seeing here with Timothy. He says, I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. For everyone, he says, looks out for their own interests, not those of Christ. He goes, you know what? I've got a friend here that he's not so concerned about himself. He's singularly focused on Jesus and being his servant. That's a powerful friend. And you can see why, as Paul has developed this relationship, he goes, man, this guy is so rock solid. I love how he talks about his friends. He says, but you know that Timothy has proved himself because as a son with his father, he has served with me in the work of the gospel. He's going, look, you know that he and I he's got proven character because he and I have been serving together, and you've heard me talk about him and seen the work. And so he says, I hope to send him as soon as I see how things go with me. Now, what he's saying there is, hey, I got to make sure, what's happening here first. I'm trying to, I don't think I need him. I think I can send him to you, but I'm a little unsure about what's going on because he's in prison and his sentence is coming up and he's trying to figure that all out. But Paul always appeals to a sovereign God, and he says this, and I am confident in the Lord that I myself will come to you soon. Hey, I'm sending Timothy. I just got to figure out a few things first. But he said, hey, but I'm getting out of this place, right? He's so confident in the Lord that he's going to meet the needs that he has. And in fact, Paul did get out of prison, and Paul did go visit Philippi. We talked about that. But those are some powerful qualities. He was unique. I'm going to go review them. He was unique. He was sympathetic and concerned for others. He was singular focused, really wanted to serve Christ. He had proven character. He's lived a solid life. Paul goes, you know how solid this guy is. And he's a servant. I have no one else, like him that's going to do those things. And so that's one of his friends. And so we find there these great qualities that we should strive for in a relationship of friendship as well. And then he moves down to another person. And he said, now that's what I'm hoping to send him. But I think it's necessary right now that I send back to you Epaphroditus, my brother, co-worker, fellow soldier. So let's talk about Epaphroditus because Epaphroditus grew up. He's got a pagan name, a Greek name. It's a derivative of Aphroditus, the Greek goddess of love. And so I would assume if you're a parent and you name your son after some Greek goddess and put a male perspective on it, that you believe in that stuff. And so we assume that Epaphroditus came from some sort of a pagan Greek god background, Roman god kind of a thing. But yet he had come to Christ because you see the qualities in his life. So whether he was there with Paul in the beginning when Paul was preaching in Philippi, or he got saved and then became valuable to the church. Here's some things that Paul says about him. He says, I think it necessary to send back to you Epaphroditus, my brother, co-worker, and fellow soldier, who is also your messenger, whom you sent to take care of my needs. In that little phrase, we saw like 5 valuable really things. Paul sees him as a brother, like as a friend. Hey, this is my friend. He's become my friend. He stayed with me long enough because you sent him to meet my needs. He said, and so he's valuable to me. He's a brother. I love where Paul, who is like the apostle, doesn't look at others as beneath him, but eye to eye. This is true friendship. You're right. Even though one may have leverage over the other, there's a friendship. There's an eyeball to eyeball, fellow humans, fellow brothers in Christ. And this is how true friends see each other. And so this is what Paul says. He said he's my brother. And then he says he's my fellow worker. That is that he's an evangelist. He's doing the work of the gospel. When Paul is sitting chained to guards in a house, and people are free to come and go and have conversations. So Epaphroditus becomes his legs and his feet. He's my fellow servant, he said. Man, he goes and does the work that I'm not able to do. And so Epaphroditus is going about, I'm assuming he's teaching, he's at least evangelizing, he's doing those things. But he also calls him a fellow soldier. Because, listen, it took a lot of bravery to say, oh, sure, I'm going to walk into Rome, a territory who hates Christians, and I'm going to become attached to the arch enemy Paul, who is spreading this gospel, he was hated for it. So, but Epaphroditus becomes a fellow soldier. He's like a defender of the faith as well. He's bold, and this is what we know about him. Then he says that he's also a messenger that you sent to me. So you see someone trusted in order to take message, give clear perspective and all of that. He said he's a messenger and a minister. He came to meet my needs. So the Philippian church sent him for two things. One, to send a message, a gift, right? Here's a gift, Paul. We've taken up money. We want to see to it that you're all right. And I'm going to stay and just see what I can do to meet your needs. Isn't that crazy? This is so good when you read that. And so then he says this, for he longs for you. I'm going to send him back to you. Well, why? Well, because he longs for you and is distressed because you have heard that he was ill. He goes, so you can imagine the conversation. Epaphroditus is going, man, I'm kind of getting homesick. They think I'm dying. They don't know what's going on. I want to go make sure they know they don't need to worry about me. That's a selfless individual there. He loves what he's doing here, but he's going, I need to go home. I need to let them know that I'm okay. I want them to see me face to face. And so that's what Paul says. For he longs for all of you and is distressed because you heard that he was ill. And Paul says, and just for the record, he was ill. This isn't we're not making light of something. He almost died, he said. But God had mercy on him, and not only on him, but also on me, to spare me sorrow upon sorrow. Paul had developed such a friendship with him. The thought of Epaphroditus passing away was like, man, it would have just heaped sorrow on sorrow. It would have killed me. It would have crushed me had he passed away. Therefore, he says, man, I'm all the more eager to send him, so that when you see him again, you may be glad, and I may have less anxiety. Now, when Paul says anxiety, he means I have less concern, less stress, thinking that maybe you don't know what's going on with him. He goes, if he just goes home, you'll be glad, and I won't be as stressed because you guys will be together and you're not worried about each other. And so I love the fact that, don't you want friends that are just kind of interacting in your life and they care about you and they're concerned about you? And see, when you're filled with humility, you become the best kind of friend. And this is really what we see happening here. We see Paul just really talking about the joy of friendships, of true humble servants that care for each other. Arrogant friends, not so much. Self-focused, prideful friends, always talking about themselves, difficult to have a conversation with, difficult to walk with. We're looking for humble, servant-hearted people, and Paul has them. And so then he says this, so then welcome him in the Lord with great joy. Hey, when he gets there, man, just do me a favor. Just welcome him with great joy and honor people like him. Come on, I want you to honor this guy. Don't treat him lightly. Just, this guy has done some powerful work for the kingdom. Listen to what he says. Because he almost died for the work of Christ. He risked his life to make up for the help you yourselves could not give to me. And so, I mean, I just love this little section. Not a lot of theology, just illustrative of the practical nature of the power of friendship and teamwork and what it means to have a team, all of us striving together for the gospel, so to speak. And that's the message I wanted to give to you today. We should all strive for these qualities, right? I mean, let me just rattle them off for you. To be unique, to be ourselves, not to try to be somebody else, but to be unique. I have no one else like him, Paul said of Timothy. To be sympathetic and empathetic with others. To slow down long enough to just think, to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Put yourself in your friend's shoes. How can I meet those needs? That is the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we see that played out here. to be singularly focused on Christ. There's no greater thing to have than a friend who loves you but loves Christ more and is always after Christ's best interest in your life. This is powerful, and these are the characteristics. He's a man of character. He was proven, right? We want to be people of character. He was a soldier. You can trust him. This is the guy's got your back, right? They're locking arms, walking into the fire together. This is the qualities of friendship that we see. He's a true messenger. He's going to give you the truth. He's going to bring sincerity. He's a messenger. He's going to be that servant, and he's going to have that sacrificial tenacity that's just not wanting to quit. And those are just the gleanings that I got today from our studies of Philippians, and I'm so glad you guys came, dropped by, and shared it with me. I hope you have a great day today. Be bold out there. Be a good friend out there. Let's let these qualities be the things that drive us. Love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.